Coming up today, with the specter of the bribery list scandal hanging over proceedings, economic matters are topping the agenda at today's question and answer session with government agencies at the National Assembly. Faced with South Korea's refusal to budge on raising wages for North Korean workers at their shared business park, Pyongyang says it will start applying an incremental late payment fee from early next week. Plus, Korea logs its slowest jobs growth in almost 2 years in March, adding fewer than 340,000 new jobs. These stories and more coming right up. Hello, it's noon on Wednesday, the 15th of April. You're tuned in to our midday newscast here on Arirang TV. Thanks as always for joining us. I'm Mark Broome. Our top story this afternoon, ways to tackle unemployment and Korea's chronically low birth rate are topping the agenda on the third day of a 4-day interpellation session at the National Assembly on this Wednesday. Lawmakers from the two main rival parties grilled Prime Minister Lee Wang-gu on whether the government has a plan for tackling the rising youth unemployment rate, which is nearly 3 times higher than the overall jobless rate. Ruling party lawmakers also urged the Prime Minister to address Korea's worryingly low birth rate, as it's expected to start undermining economic growth soon. Opposition party lawmakers continued their call for the Prime Minister to resign amid a snowballing corruption scandal involving a recently deceased businessman who claimed to have given a large sum of money to Lee a couple of years ago. A special parliamentary committee says it's aiming to wrap up its proposal for reforming the nation's pension system for public sector workers by the end of the month. The committee says it will hear a law provision proposal prepared by a working group a week from today. The working group is comprised of government officials and public servants union members. Government officials have warned that if there are no reforms to the current system, the government will have to use $3.3 billion of taxpayer money to support the program every year. Now, earlier, the floor leaders of both political camps had agreed to pass the reform bill on May 6th, but the clash over an ongoing bribery scandal could delay those plans. North Korea is upping the stakes in its tussle with South Korea over workers' wages at their inter-Korean business park. It says that if its demand for a 5% pay rise is not met within the next few days, it's going to start applying a late payment fee, which could start adding up fast. Our Kim Hyun-bin reports.
North Korea stated that it will impose late fees on salaries payable to its workers at the inter-Korean Kaesong industrial complex if the South Korean government doesn't agree to its unilateral 5% wage hike by early next week. It says the fee has been set at 0.5% daily, or 15% per month, after the deadline passes. The latest ultimatum comes after Seoul said earlier this week that it will not be restrained by Pyongyang's timetable in resolving the wage hike issue. An official at Seoul's Unification Ministry said on Wednesday that North Korea unilaterally set sub-regulations regarding late wage payment fees in 2008 and levied the fees once in September 2010. The South Korean government has pointed out that while it prefers decision to be reached through dialogue, it has no realistic way of preventing Pyongyang from pushing ahead with this plan. The wage hike issue has snowballed into quite the controversy, since North Korea unilaterally decided in February to raise workers' wages by 5% to $74 a month starting in March. About 53,000 North Korean workers are employed by 124 South Korean companies at the Kaesong industrial complex. Kim Hyun-bin, Arirang News.
Today marks what would have been the 103rd birthday of North Korea's founding father Kim Il-sung, and Kim Jong-un commemorated the anniversary by paying his respects to his grandfather. The North state-run Korean Central News Agency reported Wednesday that the young leader was accompanied by senior military officials when he visited the Kumsusan Palace of the Sun at midnight. It said a basket of flowers in Kim's name was placed before the statues of his grandfather and father at the Memorial Hall. Dubbed the Day of the Sun, North Korea designated April 15th as a national holiday in 1997. The anniversary comes as the young leader is believed to have consolidated his power after a 3-year mourning period for his father, Kim Jong-il. The United States has reacted positively to Tuesday's high-level security talks between South Korea and Japan. U.S. Deputy Secretary of State Tony Blinken says Seoul-Tokyo relations are back on the right track following Tuesday's rare round of defense talks in Seoul. Blinken said Washington shares a mutual goal with the two countries in tackling common threats, including North Korea's nuclear program. He added that the U.S. wants to play a role in reducing the renewed tension between Korea and Japan over a variety of historical and territorial issues. Now, Blinken is scheduled to hold a trilateral meeting with Seoul's first Vice Foreign Minister Jo Tae-yong and his Japanese counterpart Akitaka Saiki in Washington on Thursday on issues related to regional security in Northeast Asia. The Korean government is expected to convey its firm stance regarding Japan's decision to exercise its perceived right to collective self-defense. Korea's Deputy Defense Minister Ryu Jae-sung has been meeting with his U.S. counterpart David Helvey in Washington for their annual Korea-U.S. Integrated Defense Dialogue. The Korean official is expected to clearly express Korea's stance to the U.S. that Japan must win explicit consent from Seoul if it wants to respond to contingencies on the Korean peninsula. The talks, set to run through Wednesday, are also expected to center on strengthening deterrence against North Korea's missile and nuclear threats, as well as measures to follow up on last year's agreement to postpone the transfer of wartime operational control over South Korean forces from Washington to Seoul. Researchers in Korea have found another piece of evidence that shows Dokdo Island is clearly Korean territory. A 19th century Japanese government map shows the Korean peninsula, Ulleungdo Island and Dokdo as Korean land, adding to the growing weight of evidence disproving Japan's claims to Korea's easternmost island. Our Son Jung-in has more.
Researchers in Korea have discovered another piece of evidence disproving Japan's claims to Korea's Dokdo Island. A map from the Japanese Agriculture and Commerce Ministry from 1897 identifies both Dokdo and the neighboring Ulleungdo Island as Korean territory, with the island and the Korean peninsula all in white to show they're all part of the same nation. The map also refers to Dokdo by its Russian name instead of the Japanese name Takeshima.
If Dokdo were Japanese territory, wouldn't they use the Japanese name consistently?
The latest discovery adds to a mounting body of evidence debunking Japan's claims to the Korean island. Japan not only repeated the claim in its annual diplomatic blue book, but recently approved more middle school textbooks claiming Korea is illegally occupying Dokdo. Maps dating back to 1948 from a map compilation organization under the Japanese government do not include Dokdo as Japanese territory. Another map published by the Japanese Army General Staff Office in 1936 distinctly places Dokdo and Ulleungdo in Korean territory. An 1895 Japanese map book also shows Dokdo within the Korean borderline.
Japan keeps claiming that Dokdo is its territory, but it is a clear lie. This official map from the Japanese government makes us wonder if it can continue on with such claims.
Despite the clear evidence from the Japanese government itself, the Shinzo Abe administration remains adamant that Korea's Dokdo Island belongs to Japan. Son Jung-in, Arirang News.
The latest jobs report had some less than rosy news for Korea within it. The unemployment rate has fallen slightly due to seasonal factors, and although new jobs were added, the increase was the lowest in 22 months. Shin Se-min reports.
Korea's job creation rate rose in March from the previous year, but the increase in new hires was the smallest since May of 2013. Statistics Korea said Wednesday the country added 338,000 new jobs last month, though the figure is smaller than the 376,000 jobs created in February. The total number of employed people was 25 million in March, driven by hiring in the manufacturing and service sectors. The employment rate for people between the ages of 15 and 64 remained at 64.9%, unchanged from the previous month. The report also showed that the unemployment rate was at 4% in March. That's lower than the 4.6% recorded in February, but 0.1 percentage point higher than the previous year. The agency attributed the drop in the jobless rate to job seekers securing positions and starting work in March, as jobs are generally harder to come by in the first 2 months of the year. The unemployment rate for young Koreans between the ages of 15 and 29 fell to 10.7% last month. That's lower than the 11.1% tallied in February, which was the highest monthly figure since the institution began collecting data in 2000. Still, there were 455,000 young Koreans searching for jobs in March, and the number of people who have given up on looking for work was nearly 430,000. Shin Se-min, Arirang News.
And more gloomy economic news. The International Monetary Fund has slashed its 2015 economic growth outlook for Korea by 0.4 percentage points to 3.3%. The IMF's latest World Economic Outlook report cited a drop in Korea's consumer and corporate sector growth expectations. The report says this is denting Korea's overall recovery momentum and could lead to less consumer spending and business investment, both of which are vital for growth. In its previous outlook, released in January, the IMF had Korea growing 3.7% this year. The IMF's latest forecast is far below the Korean government's target of 3.8%, but is still higher than the 3.1% projected by the Bank of Korea last week. The 7th World Water Forum, currently underway in Korea's southern cities of Daegu and Gyeongju, aims to find better ways to tackle water shortage problems. But for businesses in the water industry, it also offers lucrative opportunities in the global water market. Kwon So-ah reports.
Trying to find solutions on how to provide the entire world with the water it needs is the main reason participants have gathered at the World Water Forum. But for some, it's more about how to make money out of water. It's being called the blue gold industry, a market on the rise as water shortages are becoming a global issue. And Korea is furthering its position in the industry by expanding its water management technology and sharing its know-how with the world. By 2025, the global water market is expected to almost double from what it was worth in 2010. Korea's water market is also on a steady growth path. It's forecast to be worth $10.6 billion in 3 years. One big contributor to the local industry is the state-run Korea Water Resources Corporation, which has been promoting its methods of preserving and distributing safe and clean water.
We are introducing a new paradigm called the Smart Water Management Initiative that aims to utilize ICT in each of our management stages, from the raw water source to our faucets.
K-Water has also proven its competitiveness abroad, with projects in more than 20 countries. At the World Water Forum, it signed a contract with France-based water giant Suez Environment. And it's not the only Korean player in global water treatment.
Doosan is the biggest manufacturer of desalination plants in the world. And what desalination plants do is they create fresh water from ocean water. So this helps alleviate regions that don't have enough water, such as Saudi Arabia, the Middle East.
The Middle East is one of the regions that's seeking more partnerships with Korea in the fight against water shortages.
We have a very good relation with Korea, and the president visited us 2 times in the country, and we have a lot in common in terms of different applications. satellite and nuclear. So we think also the cloud seeding could be also another subject that we could benefit with Korea and share the experience.
Water shortage issues are not just a problem for developing countries anymore. Experts say the blue gold industry in the 21st century could become larger than the black gold or oil industry in the 20th century. Kwon So-ah, Arirang News.
Various religious gatherings are being held around Korea this week to mark the first anniversary of the Sewol-ho ferry disaster, which claimed the lives of more than 300 people. A prayer service will be held at 7:30 p.m. on this Wednesday at Ansan Jail Church, closest to Danwon High School, which tragically lost so many of its students when that ferry sank. On Thursday, the anniversary itself of the sinking, Buddhist temples will remember the victims when they start prayers at 10 a.m. Korea time. Near the accident site at Pengmokhang Harbour on Jindo Island, a mass will be held at 2 p.m. led by the Archbishop of Gwangju. Seoul's Myeongdong Cathedral will hold a special mass at 6 p.m. Well, those are stories we've been following on this Wednesday afternoon here in Seoul. For more of the latest, don't forget to check out our website, arirang.co.kr/news, and do download our smartphone application. Goodbye.